Greetings, fellow humans. You know me as Iceman Caesar, and this is what's up in the world today. Going to be talking about The Walking Dead, specifically season 9 today. Just had the mid-season finale a couple weeks ago, and that was absolutely insane if you watched it. We'll talk about that towards the end, but I wanted to talk about the entire season today. Like I have the past few TV shows I've talked about, want to break it down episode by episode and then just kind of go over a general overview of each episode. But this was an interesting season coming into season 9 because not just because of the storylines that went down on the show, but we learned that through the announcement made in the off season that this was going to be Rick Grimes' final season. That the character was going to be leaving the show, and that it was going to be happening in this season. So Andrew Lincoln, he was. I guess there was issues with how much time he was spending away from his family filming the show. So he decided to put an end date on it, and season 9 was when they were going to be saying goodbye. We know that it would come. There was the announcements in the episodes that he left about what he's going to be doing after. But we'll get to that and get to that around that episode when we're talking about that. But the big question coming in is on top of all the storyline stuff that we had coming off at the end of last season, but now the big question was how is Rick Grimes going to leave the show? Is he going to die? Are they going to cook up some way for him to leave, or is it just a red herring? Is it just smoke? Is it are they trying to pull one over on us, and he's not actually going to leave? So lots of questions coming into this season on top of what the storylines that they set up. And those storylines were significant and pretty big. The Saviors finally defeated, looks like across the board. Negan captured, but kept alive. And we knew that was going to cause big conflicts coming into this coming into season 9 between Rick, Michonne, Daryl, Maggie, and just everybody that was kind of putting themselves on each side of it. Whether people that supported keeping Negan alive and imprisoned, but then there was also people that thought no, this guy, enough of Negan, he needs to just die. So it's excuse me. We also had a new showrunner taking the show in a new direction, Angela Kang. So we didn't know how that was going to go, if there was going to go in a good direction. Now at the end of the first half of season 9, I think we can all safely say that she was a great choice, and she absolutely crushed the job that she was given. This season was awesome. It was, every single episode was good, and it just created just such an intriguing story throughout the entire season. And not only that, but when Rick Grimes' character finally did exit, 3 episodes left, and those episodes were still great and didn't take a step back at all with missing Rick. So it's she had not only her but the entire cast and crew had a big pitch to hit this season with Rick Grimes leaving, but I think they absolutely crushed it and hit a home run. So it should be fun to talk about this season, break it down episode by episode. Let's get her started with the first one. Episode 1 was called A New Beginning. And I guess we start this one off with an 18-month time jump. We're going to have to get used to time jumps, it looks like. But 18-month time jump to start the season premiere. And we see that it's kind of broken down into Rick and Michonne in Alexandria, where Negan is imprisoned. It's Maggie and Tom Payne's character. Before we get into it, we'll just say I do not like that what they named his character, and I refuse to just participate in it. I know why they named it that, and I'm just not gonna. So maybe it's petty, maybe people will be annoyed with it, but I'm not going to call him that with the character name that they gave him, because I know why they did it, and I know the kind of people and it's just, no, I'm not doing it. So I'm going to refer to him as Tom Payne's character, or at worst, a mix of, he's kind of a ninja character, so mix the two names, Jinja. But that is I don't care if it's petty, that's what I'm doing, because I'm not playing into it. And so, but Maggie and Tom Payne's character were at the hilltop, and Carol and Ezekiel were running the kingdom, and Daryl and Eugene were trying to make this, trying to turn the sanctuary into some kind of community that could contribute and be a place where people could live and survive. And we see that the tension over Negan has not dissipated at all. It remains thick as ever. And but we also see that the three main safe places are doing pretty good. You know, like they seem to have a pretty good setup, and all the they have good crop setups and good. They're starting to get into the more primitive types of farming and creating tools and things like that. And we see, but we learn the sanctuary is struggling. Because of a lot of the ground is infertile there, and just because of a lot of things that went on around there and the type of area that it was even before the apocalypse, they just can't really do anything with with any of that ground. So sanctuary is struggling, and we learn that Daryl wants out, and that Carol is willing to go a step in there. And we also see that there's graffiti spray painted on the walls about we are still Negan or whatever. So we know that Negan is not the Saviors have not totally abandoned him as their leader. Some people are hanging on to the scumbag part of the Saviors and Negan, and trying to create a movement to bringing that back. So that's obviously getting on their nerves, and having to work with these guys and giving them a chance to rebound and maybe get another victory over him. So it's starting to wear on Daryl, and Carol looks like she's ready to step in and take over. We see the big mission of the episode is to retrieve pioneering supplies from one of the museums in DC. And I love that storyline. I thought it was both. Thought it both made sense for the story, like the motive for in the TV show for the characters, and I thought it was a good scene for the show. Like the glass flooring. I mean, it's. I mean, I'm sure some people would try and look at it as an eye-rolling scene, like, oh, the glass floor. I thought that was it was a cool thing, and it made. Just made for a different type of intensity to it. You knew someone was going to fall through that glass, but you're waiting to see when and where, and how many of these tools are they going to be able to get across before something falls through or whatever. So I thought it was a really fun scene to watch, and and so they get everything, but during the trip, Earl and Tammy's son Ken gets bit when the wagon gets stuck, and he's really being a dumbass, like, and nobody really seems to mention that when he gets back. Like, everyone's just kind of like, everyone was walking away, and he just ran back without any protection or any thought, or just really any right. And I mean, it's. But no one ever really kind of mentioned that he made a stupid move to put himself in a position to get bit. But unfortunately, he did get bit, and even though they, sometimes you just think get bit on the arm, chop your arm off, and you're good. But it's like, man, no, it's not that simple sometimes. And as we fortunately saw for Ken, they lopped the arm off, but he wasn't able to survive it and died right there. So that was a tough scene that you knew were going to have big time consequences when they got back to the hilltop. And but that's what his parents end up being pissed off over, that he basically died for nothing. Getting supplies to help the sanctuary, and just not dying in a fight or to save anyone. Just really just. I mean, I love horses, man. They're one of my favorite animals, and I would go do everything I could not to sacrifice a horse or let it to get eaten. But in the situation they were in, it seemed like there was almost nothing they could do. But maybe they could have done more, but at the same time, I don't know. At the same time, it's like he did make a stupid decision, so it's it's tough. But still, his parents were definitely pissed that their son basically died for nothing. And Gregory uses this to manipulate Ken's father Earl, especially at the funeral, with his little speech there. And really trying to manipulate Earl and all the other people in the hilltop. and he finally, gets sort of Earl, has gone a long time without drinking, and Gregory gets him drunk and riled up, and it all leads him to actually attack Maggie and knock over the carriage with the baby. And I thought that was a really ballsy scene to write. Normally it's brush up against it, but for the carriage to actually fall over, it's like I just added a realness and kind of a different intensity to it. Like that's why right off the bat, I really was got behind Angela Kang as the showrunner, because decisions like that, or it takes it takes some stones to actually do it, but it really added to the whole impact of the scene. So I thought that was a really good job. And when it failed, and then when the attack fails, Gregory himself actually confronts and attacks Maggie. Thankfully, unsuccessfully, she's able to subdue him and get him get herself safe. But man, I was also thankful that a potentially season-long story arc was played out all in one episode. Because that kind of a story arc could have easily been a season-long thing where Gregory is slowly manipulating Earl episode by episode, and then the drinking episode would have came, and then the attack, and then finally at the end of the season, Gregory would have been hung. But it's like they did it all in one episode, and it shocked me because I expected it to be dragged out. So when they did, kind of motor through it, I was like, wow, it was kind of almost on a roller coaster, enjoying the ride, like wow, they're actually moving this along pretty quickly, but. But it was definitely it was cool to see and thankful that it played out in one episode, and Rick arrives, but Maggie will only release supplies to the sanctuary if they're going to provide half of the work on the bridge labor. Because Rick needs this bridge to be completed before the tides rise, before the waters rise, and wash out what they've already built, or else communications and trading and just traveling are going to be basically impossible between all the communities. Like they need this bridge. So, but Maggie wants half of the sanctuary to provide half of the labor, and she says she's no longer following Rick's way. And as punishment for everything Gregory did up until that point, she hung him in front of everybody. And come a long way from Herschel, country girl, farmer's daughter, that we met in a season 2. So Maggie establishes herself as a force to be reckoned with and a leader that is not messing around at all. And it was a really tough scene because on one hand, you don't want to see Maggie move into that kind of brutality, but at the same time, Gregory deserved it. He tried to kill. He's manipulating people to attack Maggie, and he's attacking her himself, and he's already done that previous seasons after giving him chances. At this point, it's hard to say that Maggie wasn't justified in giving him a punishment like that, but it's tough. You don't want to see Maggie do something like that, and it was a very, very tough scene that brought up a lot of interesting questions for the characters in the story. So I thought that was a really, really, really intense start to episode 1. And just really being really surprised that they played out that whole Gregory arc in one episode. And just seeing everything they're dealing with the 18-month time jump. So I thought that was a really strong episode to start the season off. And moving on to episode 2, it's called The Bridge. The glass floor that was in episode 1. It would be absolutely rock solid ground compared to what our group and the Saviors are walking on when they're working together. It's like, man, the tensions have not dissipated at all. Like I was saying, like it is still. People are. But that was the thing that bothered me about this. People are saying they tried Rick's way, but have they really? Like he's saying, view these people as your friends, your brothers, you're part of your group. But really, people are like, okay, we'll work with the Saviors. Like you're still the Saviors. Like you still got that stink on you. So it's like there's still that there's still that environment going on, and obviously nobody can really get along and build trust and build a relationship, positive relationship out of that. So the glass floor is rock solid ground compared to what they're on right now. And one of the saviors in particular, Justin, really pushing his luck, and especially with Henry when he starts to take more water than everybody's allowed, and really starts roughing Henry around. And Daryl has absolutely had enough of that and steps up. And man, those two throw down, and it's like, man, if they're at the point where Daryl's fighting these guys, it's like things are about to really break down really quick. But between the fight between Justin and Daryl, and savior, like more and more saviors are starting to walk off and disappear, and and sorry, and with Rick pushing the work for the bridge without adequate food and water for everybody, for the saviors especially, tensions are just things are like. Things they can't really stand much more. Like something good needs to happen, or something needs to change, because things are about to really break down at where the bridge is being constructed, and and things finally do actually implode and break down, and it costs Aaron his arm when Justin fails to sound his alarm when they were trying to they were trying to redirect a herd of walkers, and Justin's horn was supposed to go off and help that redirection, and it didn't go off. Eventually they catch up to him. He says it was an accident, it was a malfunction, but with everything that's going down, none of the characters believed him. I don't think the audience believed him, and I don't know if it was ever said for sure, but I think it was pretty much understood that he didn't sound his alarm on purpose. And that led to a bunch of walkers overrunning one of the construction sites that was near that, where Aaron and the guys were, and they were able to fight it off, but one of the big logs ended up crushing Aaron's arm. It's like, that was another really intense scene, because he didn't know kind of expecting something big to go down, somebody's not going to survive this, or maybe someone's going to get bit. But if Aaron was going to lose his arm, I would have figured he would have got bit. Wouldn't have expected it to get crushed under a big log. So that was a pretty cool twist to the scene. Excuse me. And man, it was a good thing that Siddiq has been starting to train Enid to try and be another medic in the camp, because he was gone when they brought Aaron back, and he was in big trouble when they brought him back. They had to amputate that arm immediately, and talk about an interesting first day, man. Like, okay, you're just gonna cut one of your good friend's arms off here, man. But Enid. Well, it's 6 years later. We see that Enid is rocking and rolling when it comes to that, and she certainly after the crash course that she got, I don't think anybody could question her. Gaining a lot of medical knowledge over the years, because did a great job in saving Aaron's arm, which led him to have that cool little iron arm prosthetic. That's a really cool addition to the character. So really, it was just a cool scene that you didn't kind of expecting it to go one way, and it ends up going another. So I was just another reason why I was really enjoying the change to Angela Kang, and why I was really starting to support her and thinking that she was doing a really good job. We see Maggie at the hilltop, really trying to establish dominance, but at the same time, still trying to get things done that the community needs. And she's trying to play hardball with Earl. Like he did attack her, and he's he knocked the carriage over, so it could have had serious consequences for the baby. But at the same time, he was drunk and manipulated into being drunk. And he is the blacksmith for the communities, and they need him. So it's tough. somebody can really use that power for a negative way, but at the same time, you need to get things done. You need somebody with those skills. So, Maggie's really stuck between a rock and a hard place of trying to keep rules and a law and order, and you let people know if you attack people, try to kill them, like you're gonna be punished. So tough place for her to be in, but this leads to Earl being allowed to work as a blacksmith under supervision, and the Savior's getting some supplies despite the missing ethanol that they had agreed to send Hilltop that she needs. But Maggie realizes that this playing hardball and starving people out is not going to get them to where they need to be. So she's going to do this, but there's going to be one step at a time, and if things aren't reciprocated, those steps will stop, and things will really turn to every community for themselves. So it's where they're on starting to it's good things are happening, but still very, very shaky ground that they're all walking on here. And also a really good idea between them starting to kind of draw up a code of conduct, almost like a constitution of, this is the way we're going to conduct ourselves, and if you don't, these are the punishments, and if you don't agree with that, then leave the community or whatever. But this isn't a revolving door of I'm going to do it for 2 weeks, and then I'm going to go out and do whatever for a few weeks. Like, you're in, or you're, when you're in, you have to make a commitment to the communities and to the conduct, and when you're out, it's like you're on your own. So it was a good idea for them to establish that between the communities, so they can have some kind of just a frame of reference, be like, this is how you have to act and conduct yourself, and so that we can all have a good, safe environment here and try to live whatever kind of a life we can in this apocalypse. And now we see Anne and Father Gabriel who are starting to get close. That was really a connection that I didn't really see coming at all, but ended up being pretty cool when you see it play out on screen. She sees that helicopter again when she's supposed to be looking things, but doesn't tell anybody about it. And obviously we know she's got more of a connection to that helicopter than she's letting on. And we learn throughout this episode that Rick has been talking towards the camera to someone, but we realize that he's been talking to Negan the whole time, and Negan obviously still talking shit, still taunting Rick. Never changes, and so it's we obviously know that Negan is still very much involved in their lives, even though he's locked away, and Rick is very, very mindful to remind Negan of how how things can work when they're working together, and it doesn't need to be some evil scumbag on top controlling everything, and just running things by fear and violence, and just that way doesn't work. Rick really wants to show Negan that this way works, you son of a bitch. Like, you look and you admit it, and Negan's obviously like, nah, bud, you're just getting this ready for me to enjoy, pal. So I just say, it's Negan's a really interesting villain, because you want to see him get his comeuppance, but Jeffrey Dean Morgan does such a great job of portraying him that you just want him to continue, and you want to see more of that character on screen. So it's an interesting dynamic between Rick and Negan that continues even after he's been imprisoned. And to end the episode, we see Justin has finally been done. He's done with the communities. Rick and them can't have him around, so he's gone and walking off on his own, and been drinking and drunk and walking and stumbles, and somebody scares him, but somebody he knows, because he lets his guard down and talks to them, and boom, they take him out to end the episode. So something's going down, and is it an enemy to everybody, or is it an enemy to the Saviors? Who knows? But obviously find out pretty quick. Leads us into episode 3, titled Warning Signs. And looks like the Saviors are going to go back to causing trouble, as Maggie and Michonne are trying to deliver supplies to the sanctuary. And one of the Saviors, Jed, super And I picked that guy was just like got on my nerves from day one and stayed on them the entire time. And this scene in particular, man, calling Maggie the widow, stealing a tomato out of there, taking a little bite. It's like, oh, you've no idea how lucky you are, man. But doing a great job of building these guys up as the villains, I guess. And but before it goes any further, Justin as a walker, we see what the conclusion of the attack on Justin was at the end of the last episode. Justin was killed and turned into a walker, and when they check him out, it's clear that his wounds were, he died of human hands. He wasn't bit by a walker. He was killed by somebody. So the Saviors are this obviously puts them on high alert, and now they're not trusting anybody. They're not getting along with anybody, and their tempers are starting to flare up again. And as things start to flare up again at the construction camp between the Saviors and the other groups, and Rick arrives to try and save the day and calm things down, by saying he'll investigate it, and try and figure it out. And it's like, obviously it's tough. People are playing along, saying on the surface, I guess they're saying that they're going along with Rick's way, but they're not viewing each other as as friends or family or anything like that. And they're just way like, I mean, when you have that kind of an attitude, it's just the first type of thing that doesn't go smoothly with each group. Like, first piece of conflict is gonna just be blown out of proportion. And I mean, obviously somebody being killed is not a small little thing, but Saviors immediately jump to conclusions that the group is trying to take them out one by one, which, I mean, I guess technically in a way they were kind of writing onto things, but it wasn't a collective effort of the groups to get rid of the Saviors, which that's the paranoia of the bad guys being brought into the group is, it would be tough to shake. But we see that tension is really coming to a head now with Justin's death. But Rick says he will investigate, tries to calm things down. And Daryl and Ann are both offended at even being asked by Rick and Gabriel respectively if they did it. Daryl thinks if he would have done it, he would have walked up to Justin and done it. He doesn't need to do things behind anyone's back. And Anne believes that her being questioned shows that nobody trusts her, and they think that she's just this bad person and that she'll never be one of them. So it's it's just people. That's what I mean, on people not really actually buying into what Rick was saying, and that's why it's not been working. And that's why it's frustrating for me when people end up saying, what, Rick's way is not working, so let's do it a different way. It's like, well, you're not even trying, really. But But Rick sends out a search party to try and find Justin's killer, to figure out what's going on. And Maggie and one of the search parties is Maggie and Cindy, and they find a cabin that has a history in Oceanside, and they got some part of the roof is making noise, attracting walkers, so they gotta get rid of that and clear the cabin. But I guess that the cabin had a history. It was where people had the Oceanside people had lived and been killed. And they get into trouble. Trying to clear all the walkers out of there. But Rick and everybody arrive in time to help them, and they find and then once they're all together, they find one of the other teams that they sent out. They find Beatrice knocked out, and Arat has been taken, and they see her stuff there, so they obviously know that somebody has taken her, and so they go off and search to try and pick up the trail and see if they can track down who did that. But everybody else goes back to camp to try and regroup and search again. And sorry, trying to do this without losing my place, but unfortunately, it's search again with Carol, but Jed and the Saviors again surround them and try to strong arm them into getting weapons. But Carol ends up stabbing Jed and turning the tables on them. And we see that Anne has returned to the junkyard, and she finds some walkie-talkie radio that she's hidden, and she turns it on and actually contacts these helicopter people. So obviously we know, no doubt about it, she's, in contact. They know she is there. She can contact them anytime she wants with this radio, and and they ask her if she has an A or a B, and she has neither. She says she has neither until Gabriel reveals that he followed her and figured out that she has been trading people for supplies, and he says that. And Anne tells Gabriel that if he helps her, then they can both escape together. And Gabriel refuses and saying that he has to go tell Rick about this and everything. And Anne knocks him out, saying that she always thought he was a B. So that whole scene with Anne, with the helicopter people asking her Anne if she has an A or a B, and then Gabriel telling her that he's gonna have to turn her in and tell Rick about this, and her knocking him out saying she always thought he was a B, created a lot of speculation and a lot of talk. What's this A and B stuff? So gonna talk about that towards the end, because they don't reveal it in this season, so it's still open for speculation. So towards the end, talking about the future, going to talk about what I think the A and the B stands for. But created a lot of interesting speculation and questions. So thought that was a pretty cool thing to add into the story. And and we see that Maggie and Daryl gone back out to search for the people that attacked Beatrice and a rat. They have tracked things to find Cindy, Beatrice, and the rest of the Oceanside crew holding a rat in an execution position. Excuse me. And they say that they were inspired by Maggie's hanging of Gregory, and that people that wrong them need to be punished. And we learned that a rat was part of the Savior's crew that came with Simon and came through Oceanside and killed all the men and boys and just all the males. And we learned that Cindy's brother was one of the ones that was killed by a rat, but it wasn't she wasn't acting reluctant. She was laughing and smiling, and when Cindy begged her to spare her brother's life, she looked at her and said no exceptions and killed her brother. So very, very tough scene, and able to quickly understand the motives behind the Oceanside crew and why they were doing this. And Maggie and Daryl, instead of stopping things, turn around and walk away as Cindy executes a rat. And we see Maggie and Daryl talking to each other, saying once again Rick's way failed, so now they need a new direction, and they're heading to Alexandria to end Negan. And it's just like, it was just stuff like that, so frustrating, because it's like you're not really buying into Rick's way. It's just kind of doing it on the surface, and then as soon as one conflict comes up, it's just like everything unravels. It's like, it didn't work, so whatever. It's like you didn't actually try to do it. So that was kind of frustrating. But Rick's way is coming undone really quickly, because Maggie and Daryl, two of Rick's closest allies and people to him, are not supporting him. So they're ready to turn this, to get their revenge on Negan and finally end his run. So that was how we ended the show. And for a second there, I thought Maggie was gonna be like, oh no, like me killing Gregory inspired these people to be violent and killing, but she's just like, wow, I guess I'm right. I was like, wow, that's kind of an interesting turn. So it's but just really really great twists and turns and questions brought up by what they did in the story this season. So really 3 episodes in, we're really excited, but at the same time we knew that the end of Rick Grimes is coming, and they were advertising it as at this point we knew there was only 2 episodes left. So in this coming episode, episode 4, we knew they're gonna do something to set up the final story for Rick. And so let's move into episode 4, titled "The Obliged," and we see that Michonne. We started out seeing Michonne is kind of struggling, coping with regular wife and mother duties and life in Alexandria, and she's kind of balancing that with going out at night and still killing walkers, and just kind of getting a little bit. We saw that with Daryl, too, when they first arrived at civilized, when we first arrived at communities and try to settle in. Daryl, you could tell he liked that kind of nomad life of traveling around, living off the land, and just basically your home is where you started your fire. So it's like. We saw. So I think we saw a little bit of that with Michonne here, kind of missing that part of the life, and with being a mom to Judith, basically a wife to Rick. It's like they were, a lot of those duties, and they're trying to rebuild society and a community. So she's trying to do a lot of those duties, and just not as maybe as soul fulfilling as maybe she thought. I'm not saying that being a wife and mother wasn't fulfilling to her. It's just that you need that. That adventurous, part of you fulfilled too as well. So she's getting that kind of sneaking away at night. And she has to use she gets kind of stuck and has to use a bat at one point, and seeing the blood and Walker's guts on it kind of gets her, really shakes her a little bit, like, is and especially with what Negan was trying to say to her in their little conversation, like. That just everything surrounding that is kind of like her using a bat like Negan did, not in the same way, obviously, but just like when you're in that state, things like that can just be kind of like, whoa, am I really like him? So it's, I thought that was a cool little addition to Michonne's character. But she she still has to interact with him because she's one of the leaders in the community, and right now Negan is refusing to eat, putting up a little hunger strike, and it seems like he's the kind of guy that would do that just to make sure people would force people to have a conversation with him, and that's what he gets out of Michonne. She's having a conversation. They actually start talking about their pasts, and Negan starts taunting Michonne. Of course he does, but he actually starts taunting her about losing her child, and and becoming this wife and mother domesticated type of person, and it's and really it starts hammering, we're the same and stuff. So he's trying to manipulate her and get her, throw her off her game, you can tell. And then but one of the great probably the best part of their little exchange is moves to kind of Negan moving to well, where is Lucille? I know you got Lucille up on some put her locked away in some special place or whatever. She's like, okay, well, I know, like, I don't know. It's like, it's where you left it, it's probably where. And then his reaction was just showed you really how broken that character really, like, no, like a little kid. That reminded me of my nephew who he used to get mad, like, no, no. But that shows you how broken, like, Negan's trying to put on his taunting everybody in his cool swagger type character, but really inside all he cares about is that stupid bat. And finally he sees a way to sneak it in there. So how's my bat? He just wants that peace of mind of knowing it's safe and taken care of. Which, I don't know, wherever we left it, man, like, who cares about your stupid bat? And he just can't take that because there's nothing he can do. And the idea of anybody doing, like, I loved the way that scene was written and acted. It was just perfectly done. And it really showed you how broken of a character Negan really is. But that's what I mean. Like that Negan, that charismatic, fearless leader. That the guy that sauntered into the forest out of the camper that day with all of our crew on the ground. Like, that guy is completely broken and and I don't say gone, but like completely broken and really destroyed because it's just everything that's happened, and then finally realizing that Lucille is just lying where it could be lying wherever it could be in somebody else's hands, just completely breaks him down. And I really thought that was a great way to show that the contrast between guy that who he was when he was strong and in charge and who he is now that he's lost everything and he's in prison. So just great stuff in this episode and this season. Um, and moving back to the junkyard, we see that Anne has Gabriel tied down, just like Negan was, with a rigged up walker, getting him ready to bite him. And we obviously don't know why, but I'm going to talk about that also at the end. But what I think everything is, why I think she did everything and what's going on with the junkyard people and everything or the helicopter people and everything like that. But Gabriel eventually is able to kind of talk her out of it and appeal to her with his words, and she doesn't let the walker bite him. But she eventually leaves him for good, and then obviously he's pretty upset about that. But it's she's obviously done trying to fit into surviving communities and things like that, and she's just. She's ready to either, go off on her own and, survive for the rest of it on the land, or, figure out a way to get these helicopter people to take her in and not have to worry about, the day-to-day survival that she goes through out in the world that the rest of our group's living in. So at the end, finally leaves Gabriel for good. Back to Alexandria, the conspiracy to eliminate Negan is underway, and but they need a... but they need a plan because Rick knows, and Rick has figured out what Maggie's gonna do once she gets into Alexandria. Like, there's only one reason that she would come back to Alexandria with Negan there, and so thankfully Tom Payne's character Jinja finally secretly warns Rick, who's trying to get this bridge finished before the rising waters wash it all away, and really just destroy communications and trade and every travel between the communities. Like, they need this bridge, and Rick is really doing everything he can to get this thing done without having everything break down. And so he tries to radio somebody to stop Maggie and to head her off to keep her from Alexandria, but doesn't realize that this person is working with Maggie, and she doesn't really relay the message. And it's as a Rick fan, on Team Rick, man, it's just pissed me right off. It's like, damn you. But she doesn't really relay the message to stop Maggie from getting there. And and then Daryl, Rick's boy, basically his brother, swindles Rick into coming along for a ride. He says he's going to take him to, I think he said he'll take him to Alexandria, misses the turn. Obviously Rick figures out what Daryl's doing, and he's just trying to get Rick away from Alexandria, and this leads them to start getting off the bike and getting into a little bit of a scuffle, and taking into a tumble to a big-ass sinkhole. And big enough to where you can't just climb out of it. Like, you need, like, they could be in some trouble here, and but it led to a really great scene and some really great acting between the two. And I don't know if it would have been helped or hurt if we didn't know that it was going to be Rick's final scene. I think some of these scenes would have been hurt knowing that it was Rick's final, but I think this is an example of one that was helped, because just knowing it, we could have just kind of come into it as a random scene, but knowing Rick was going to be leaving, you're looking at scenes like this. Like, this could be one of the last Rick and Daryl scenes. So it was. I was really looking. It was a great scene, great acting. Daryl got to drop an F-bomb. That was sweet, and it was just. It was just. Just Daryl's character they've done a really great job of kind of reestablishing him as a great character again this season. But man, he made so many stupid mistakes and would just he'd blame other people. It's just driving me nuts for a few seasons. But it was great scene, great exchange, especially knowing that it was going to be one of the last Rick. It is one of the last Rick and Daryl scenes. So it was it was just great choice for the episode. And But back towards the camp, the Saviors again, man, ambush the camp and Carol, and they're trying to fend them off. Oceanside shows up to even the odds, and but all the commotion brings the Walker herd towards the camp, and they're all the gunfire and everything is drawing them towards the camp, and this draws them towards the sinkhole that Rick and Daryl in. So they start taking the Walker the Walker slip and slide into the hole. And obviously you knew that this wasn't going to be the way. This wasn't going to be the way that Rick ended, but it was just a great moment to end it. Rick sticking out his hand, brother, a callback to an earlier scene from season 1 or 2. So just a really great job with this scene leading up to saying goodbye to Rick. And but they get out of the sinkhole, and and Rick gets onto a horse, and Rick tells Daryl that he's going to lead the Walkers away from things, and at this point you start to get the butterflies knowing, okay, like something bad's gonna happen with what he's doing here. They're doing the famous last words like, be safe, man, like we'll see you soon. It's like, can't wait I retire one more day and I get to retire, boys. So like those awful goodbyes that you hear in the movies. So you knew that, and plus you just know that something was gonna happen with Rick leading this herd to lead to the end. So but Rick gets on the horse and starts to lead them, and eventually the horse gets startled. Rick gets knocked off, and boom, impaled on a piece of rebar right through him. Thankfully, not fatally through the heart or anything, but in a bad place. Like he's in big trouble with where he's hurt. And the herd is approaching very, very fast, and that is where we come to the end of episode 4. And it's like, I mean, you can see in the episode preview, Rick gets off the rebar, and he doesn't get eaten right there, but it's like, just knowing that it was coming into the end, man, it was very, very bittersweet, because I wasn't watching right from the start on TV, but I came on about season 3 or 4, I think midway through season 3, and just binge watching all those seasons, and then being on board week to week ever since then. I've become a big fan of the Rick Grimes character. Didn't want to see him leave TV or the show, so it was bittersweet, but every journey has an end, so you knew there was going to be an end, and got prepared for it, and here we go. The Episode 5, titled What Comes After, a.k.a. Goodbye Rick Grimes. So here we go. Rick Grimes' final episode starts with Rick being able to pull himself off of the rebar. And ouch, man, that would seriously have hurt. But he continues to lead the horde, and away from the camps, trying to get in. I guess his plan was to lead him to the bridge. The weight of the Walkers would collapse the bridge and wash them all away, and they'd be all good. They'd figure everything out after that. But the herd was the bigger problem at this point. And during these, had some awesome lucid dream sequences, interacting with some characters that have already passed. The one with Herschel was really special. Really special since the actor. Scott Wilson just recently passed away, so that was really, I'm sure that must have been a special scene for Andrew Lincoln to look back on, and spend for the rest of the cast and crew to shoot. So that was just, I really enjoyed being able to watch that scene, and then Shane, we got to see Rick and Shane, interacting again, man. That was so great, and. It was it just didn't get enough time with Rick and Shane. The story dictated that, but it's just, really wish we could have had more interaction between them. But it was nice to get one last interaction between them. That was a great scene. One of the highlights of this season and episode for sure. And finally, his last lucid dream sequence with Sasha. It was nice to see her back, on the bodies of, I guess that was all their friends. That was pretty crazy. And and then Sasha reminded Rick that his family is not lost, and that would be significant towards the end of the episode. And and back in Alexandria, Michonne hears of Maggie coming for Negan, and obviously she knows exactly what's going to happen and is waiting for Maggie at the gates. But they have a great scene, a scene between each other in conversation, and that's another. We didn't realize that Lauren Cohan was also stepping away from the show. Maybe permanently, hopefully not. But this was her last episode as well, and if hopefully she's back sooner than later. But a great scene to kind of for her to kind of leave on. It was a great exchange between her and Michonne, and then leading with Michonne saying, "All right, here you go. Here's the keys. Do what you got to do." Like, wow, it's like that was just a very interesting, cool scene between two of my favorite characters on the show. But when when Maggie finally confronts Negan, she sees what we've all seen up to this point. She sees through his attempt to taunt her about Glenn's death and everything, and she sees that Negan is a broken, destroyed man, and that he wants to die. He wants to be gone from this world. He wants to be reunited with his wife. He wants to be, his goal is to get someone to kill him. So she's like, I'm not giving you that. I'm not, like, you are the Negan that I wanted to kill, and that I wanted the Negan I came here to kill is already dead. Like, whoever you are, it's like you can rot in prison for the rest of your life. So I thought that I thought that was such a great, Maggie's ready to unleash the fury on this guy, but then all of a sudden sees that it's not the same person, but that but that's what he wants at this point because it's not the same person. So she's not giving it to him. Thought that was just great little, great little twists and turns to the story this whole way through the season. That's one of the reasons why I think everybody is, I think it's universally accepted as Angela Kang did a phenomenal job with this season. This season's been really good, and little things like this are the reason why, because it just lets you sink your teeth deeper into the story and the characters. And Rick's last lucid dream sequence got me good, man. I thought I was just, I was like, I just kind of, started to feel the emotions of our group, rising together and coming to save the day and working together and seeing the old crew. It's just like, oh man. Then realizing it was a damn lucid dream, it's like, you bastards. Which was really great moment nonetheless. And Rick continues leading the walkers to the bridge, but it does not collapse, and it's not going to collapse in time, if at all. They did too good of a job, and but at this time, everybody else does actually show up, and Daryl's saving his brother with the arrows. But you can see the concerned look on Daryl's face, like he knows Rick is about to do something crazier to stop these walkers, and he's trying to buy him some time. And Michonne and everyone's doing everything they can to thin this herd down, but it's just too many and too big. And Rick finally, he's found his family. His family's not lost, and he's gonna make sure they stay that way. And boom, blows the bridge. And God, just heart-crushing reaction from Michonne and Daryl too. Almost just like, he just had to walk away and be like, oh my God, like that was just, that was a. I think it would have been. That was a scene I think though was hurt by knowing it was going to be Rick Grimes' final scene, because I think if we hadn't have known, I think it would have had much more of an impact. Have been like a what? Like no way. So I think it would have been, and I guess they didn't. To me, I guess here's a little criticism. I don't think the danger potential of what Rick was about to do. I don't think they had established that enough to the viewer yet. Because it wasn't really clear if he was going to die or if he was close enough that he would have just been blown back or whatever. So that was like, I think that his exit could have been done a little bit better. But I love this season so much, and they did such a good job. I don't want to kind of rain on the parade like that. But we are giving compliments and criticisms, and I try. I think it's constructive criticism. But I just think that it was just. I would have more impact if we didn't know that Rick Grimes' exit was coming. But still a great job and scene, and different. Great. I mean, could have been a lot worse. So for an ending, for an exit for Rick Grimes, that was a good way to choose for him to go. And we see Anne, who had been kind of close by, because she sees the explosion. She sees the smoke from the explosion, and she's got the radio to the helicopter people, and she's been lying to them about having an A until she sees Rick, who's washed up on the shore by her, and he's really, really beaten up, and and she's all of a sudden talks to the helicopter people and says, she says she's got an A now, no tricks, no nothing, like she's good to go, and that's how we see the episode ending. Rick is the helicopter people agree to Anne's deal, and they load Rick into the helicopter, and they both fly away to God knows where. And so the end of Rick Grimes is not a death. He's alive, and he's been taken somewhere else. And we learned on The Talking Dead that there's going to be some Walking Dead movies, and that Rick Grimes' character will continue for these movies. And so, but I'll be talking about at the end for what future prospects are. So, but for now, that's the exit for Rick Grimes, and pretty crazy, man. For that whole, I'll talk about Rick more at the end as well. But just wasn't ready to say goodbye, but one heck of a journey for one great character. So so that brings us to another time jump 6 years later. And we see a group of new people who we come to know as Magna, Connie, Kelly, Yumiko, and Luke. And they are all surrounded by walkers when all of a sudden, boom, taken out by some headshots. And we see they're saved by a young girl who reveals herself to be Judith Grimes. So thought that was really cool. It's really cool to end the time jump to see that Judith Grimes is now kind of be taking almost in a Carl role and trying to be a force to be reckoned with in the apocalypse. But she didn't ask the 3 questions. Oh man, I was waiting for it, and really the 3 questions weren't mentioned at all in the episode. So that was another. Really, my only few criticisms of the whole season were, man, I wish Judith would once she saved him, would have been like, I have 3 questions for you, and the episode could have ended, man. That would have been so great. But just at the end of Rick Grimes and setting something up for the potential for the future, I thought they did a good job with that. So it's most people weren't ready to say goodbye, but for what they did, I thought they did a good job. So. That brings us into episode 6. Who Are You Now? And this is a very significant episode. It's the first one without Rick Grimes. And that's going to be very interesting territory to go into. I didn't know if I was going to still enjoy the show without Rick. I didn't know if they'd be able to craft a good story without Rick. So it was a lot of big questions for me coming into this episode, but I thought they nailed every single one. We started out here the Michonne kind of describing the 6 years as a struggle to survive without Rick. We learned that the 3 communities are very severed, and they all 3 exist, but are barely on speaking terms and are barely friendly to each other. We see Judith bring this new group into Alexandria, which is not exactly welcoming to new people. And Judith insists that they give these people a chance and at least bring them before the council. Like that's the process now. They've created a council to make decisions for the communities that they vote on. They vote members for, so it's everybody has a contribution. They go before this academy, and that even has a former savior on there. So this is actually what that council is, kind of what Rick's vision was. Everybody, forgetting their separate communities and just being one. Like we're one family now. We're one group. So we got to think of each other that way. And but they go before the council to try and make their case to stay. And it seems like they're doing it, that they're going to get the green light when Michonne, who's obviously suspicious from the start, sees a prison tattoo on Magna, and leads that to having everybody distrust them and vote for them to not be allowed to stay. Thought that was kind of a crazy, weird thing, because normally when noticing something like that, there's a significant prison that they're going to be talking about or that they can reference, but this one was just kind of like, you've been in prison, so like I don't know. But it was an interesting way to take it. And but Magna can't really explain it, so the council votes not to let them in. And when after they vote to let them stay until Yumiko is healed, and then they have to go. And we see that Judith actually has kind of a good relationship with Negan, talking to him and trying to get him to help with her homework and stuff. And Negan, being Negan, can't just help her, like has to turn it into some kind of thing where he's talking shit or making a point about himself or what he wants. So it's like, just help her with the damn math problem, you jackass. But what he said about the wolves and letting people in, new people in, it's like, could be give us a little bit of a window into what happened during the 6 years, because we see different. Obviously, there's a lot of mistrust, and we see scars on Michonne. So interesting relationship between Judith and Negan, though. And then Michonne eventually has a change of heart and offers to take the group to Hilltop with Siddiq, knowing that they'll probably be more welcoming to letting them into the community. Back at Kingdom, we see that Henry has been noticing that they have got lots of problems that can't be fixed by duct tape and just regular things anymore. They need a blacksmith, somebody that knows how to work with metal and tools and that can actually weld and get things done, and that'll have long-term effects and fixes. So Henry offers to go apprentice at the Hilltop, and Ezekiel and Carol eventually, reluctantly, but eventually they agree that this is a good idea, and Carol heads out to Hilltop with Henry to try so that he can start an apprenticeship there. And and Jed and the Saviors, man, still causing shit. They stop Carol and Henry on the way, and they rob them, and they even goes as far as to take Carol's ring. And you knew shit, bad stuff was coming back around for Jed when he did that. But these guys obviously got to be scumbags the whole time. But they leave him alive, which clearly was a big mistake for them. And seems like Carol has calmed down a bit in the 6 years, because it seems almost like she may let this slide for now and figure out another way. But Henry kind of riles her up a bit, talking to her, and in the middle of the night she sneaks away, and the little victory that the Jed and them had earlier in the day was very short-lived. And it was another there was another Carol barbecue, man. It's like a tough scene. I'm not a big fan of burning alive. Like, that's, brutal deaths. I'm not a big fan of that, especially by one of our good guys. But it was, I know, took a little bit of suspension of disbelief for her to, pour gasoline around everyone without anyone waking up or knowing or smelling or anything, and then, being able to light it. But whatever, it was a cool scene. It creates a cool moment for a very awesome character. So willing to suspend my disbelief for sure. But, not going to have to worry about those saviors anymore. Like, seriously, Carol was absolutely done dealing with them. And then after dealing with that, they continue on, and they find Daryl, who's been living out amongst in the trees, in the woods, amongst the forest and things, and so yeah, and that's where they find Daryl towards the end of the episode, and then. And then we see Rosita and Eugene. They're heading out to set up some radio equipment for Father Gabriel, who's now with Rosita. Like, what the heck? Like, man, for for a guy that most people probably would have guessed would never have had a female love interest, man, he's now gotten with two ladies on the show. Like, man, not what I've expected from Father Gabriel, but pretty cool addition to his character. But they got Eugene and Rosita have gone off to set up some radio equipment for Father Gabriel to try and just expand the world and figure out if they can reach more people. Eugene climbs up a water tower to plant the equipment and sees a herd coming their way, and trying to get down quickly, scares off the horse and injures his leg when he's jumping down. So they tried to escape, but man, this herd is something else. Like, this herd's right on their tail, and they can't shake them at all. And to the point where they finally have to jump down a little bank and cover themselves in mud and just lie there and hope that they pass them by. And it does, it works. But as it's passing them by, they all of a sudden hear one of the most terrifying things they've ever heard, and they hear this like, "Where are they? Don't let them get away!" Like, man, and the terror on Eugene's face, like, Josh McDermott, what an amazing piece of acting, man. That's exactly what anybody would have been feeling and experiencing in that situation. And that's what I just wish I didn't know anything about who those villains were. So that scene would have just been so. I just can't imagine for people that didn't know anything about the comics. Like, that would have been one of the best scenes ever on TV, man. Because there was you would have had no real reason to ever expect to hear that, and all of a sudden they whisper. It's just like, wow, man. And the terror on Eugene's face, and Rosita too, man. It was just such a great scene. It really, really got me excited for these last two episodes. Like, I was just like, man, we gotta wait like 3 weeks total till we get to the season finale. Like, brutal. But great. I mean, just an unbelievable setup to the final two episodes of the season, and it's a great episode. First episode after Rick Grimes left, because, man, they needed to hit one with a bang, and they certainly did with this episode 6. Leading us into episode 7, Stradivarius, and we see that Tom Payne's character Jinja is now like the temporary leader at Hilltop in these 6 years, because sometime during it, Maggie and Lil Glenn, I guess it's Herschel, but I like excuse me, call him Lil Glenn. Lil Glenn, I guess at some point they'd gone off to join Georgie's community. I guess just with Negan being alive and everything breaking down between the communities, it was just too much, and decided that for the little guy, she needed a fresh start, and decided to go out with Georgie, who she knew she could trust and have a good fresh start with. So that leaves Tom Payne's character in charge, and but he doesn't want to be the leader. Very frustrated with it, to the point of where Tara basically has to force feed his duties on him, and he's also has a little bit of the Michonne kind of energy, sneaking out at the end of he's sneaking out when he can to meet up with Aaron for training, and to talk about what's going on between the communities. So the fact that he has to sneak out to talk to his friend, that was part of our tight knit group, shows how things have broken down between the communities. But really just it drives me nuts, because we don't know why, and I want to know every little tidbit of the story. But they see a flare go off in the distance, and they track it down, and they find out it's Rosita, and she is barely conscious and badly hurt, and they get her up and together, and they get her back to Hilltop, and back to the other group. On the way to Hilltop, Michonne and the new group come upon the new group's old shipping container that they were using for shelter, and looks like it was destroyed by. They say it was destroyed by walkers, but like to me, I was really hoping for. This was a scene where I was wishing that I was one of those times where you wishing you were a character in the show. It's like I wish, I would have loved to have been a character that would have had an Obi-Wan Kenobi moment, been like, you know, these are not Walker marks. Like, these are too precision for Walker strikes. Like, this was done by something else, but it's like, but I was really hoping for an Obi-Wan Kenobi type moment for some character, for put myself in the story. But I thought that was a really cool come upon their kind of camp to see that it was all destroyed, because things like that, mysteries like that, could be anything. Could have been a Walker herd, or it could have been something else. And obviously that something else could have been a combination between something else and a Walker herd. So, uh, but. But this is where Michonne is going to kind of be like, okay, you guys are good from here. Siddiq can take you the rest of the way, but she's convinced to stay and stay with them the rest of the way, and but her high alert, take no chances attitude cost Luke his priceless Stradivarius violin. And I was kind of bummed at that, because I love the violin. I would have loved to hear some. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in the whole series was when when they sing, Beth and I think Maggie too, but Beth sings I think it was season 3, because it was just so dark and dreary up to that point, and all of a sudden there was this singing. I binge watched it, so I felt like I was in the apocalypse, and to have this singing kind of slice through, it was like, oh. To me, it was one of my favorite, maybe my favorite scene. But so I was looking forward to hearing some violins. So I was like, "No, Michonne, no." But I thought that Luke's reaction was hilarious. Great character, great addition to the show. Um, um, but I love how his character believes that music and art will be the key to kind of restoring civilization and bringing things back. Sort of kind of a same way as Jim in Fear the Walking Dead, how he thought beer was going to be the thing that brought society and communities back. So I thought that was a really cool part of his thing to add for his character. Um, um, but not gonna be doing with the Stradivarius violin, that's for sure. Um, and unfortunately, Michonne has to put down their friend Bernie, who we learned about, who seemed like would have been a pretty cool character to have on the show, but he was already a Walker, and seeing his Walkered up shirt and we didn't know nothing about him, but even me, I was kind of like, oh man, I'm gonna have to. So, but it was tough for our new group, so it was a good scene to have in there, so we can have emotional connection to our just bridge a little bit of an emotional connection to our new group. Because obviously they haven't had very much time at all to develop a connection with the audience. And they continue on to Hilltop, where they're stopped by riders informing them of what happened to Rosita. And Siddiq tells Michonne that Maggie is long gone from Hilltop, which surprises her, which once again shows you how crazy things have broken down. And at this point, Connie thinks she sees something in the woods, and they kind of stop. But she says, "Oh, I guess it was nothing. Don't see anything." But they move on. But the audience, we see that it wasn't nothing. There was something watching them, and who or what it was, like, could be anything, especially with this new this new danger that showed up. So it's like, but I mean, could be that, or it could be something else. So it's I love things like that, because it just opens up your mind to anything, and people that have imagination, it can really send a shiver down your spine, because you could like dream up anything for that potentially to be. So it's just mysteries coming left and right. Really, and because of all the not knowing anything about like what happened in the 6 years, it's just creates a really good tension for the viewer in watching the episode. And I was really enjoying kind of being on the edge of my seat, waiting for the story to kind of which way is it going to go, which mysteries are we going to learn about. It was I was really, really enjoying it. And we catch up to Carol and Henry with Daryl. We see he has a dog. Yes, Daryl and a dog on the show, man. I love dogs. It's like, don't want to see walkers get to a dog. That'd be brutal. But man, I love that Daryl has a dog on the show now. And we see Daryl's been out there a long time, pretty much searching for Rick's body. Trying to find, I'm sure every time he kills a walker, looking at the face, trying to find it, but never once in this 6 years did he ever find a body. So, Daryl obviously, I mean, I'm sure he's not sitting there thinking that Rick's going to walk into camp every day, but at the same time, I think sure he holds out hope that somewhere out there, Rick is something happened and maybe Rick will be out there alive. Because they, never found a body and he's been looking. If anyone could find it, it would have been Daryl, you'd think. But the dog gets surrounded by a dog. I guess the name is Dog. I love that too. But it would have been cool if he named him Merle as well. But maybe you would have known how much that would have pissed off Merle, so he would have still. But dog gets surrounded by walkers with traps, and we see that Daryl's got traps everywhere. Henry trying to help Daryl out, gets stuck in one. But Lucky was there to help Daryl out, and Carol from the bushes watching this, and Daryl doesn't want anyone's help, especially Henry. But I think this was kind of Carol's goal, was to get Daryl and Henry to bond, and hope that Daryl would kind of watch out for Henry as he's out, because Daryl's closer to Hilltop than obviously Kingdom, and Carol would be. So it was a good scene. It's definitely so great to have Daryl back in his tracker ranger type character, and like him having like a little apprentice to teach and learn and to watch over it would be a good thing for him and his character, and it would just help grow that aspect of it, to teach him all these things and to get help for the more complex things that he needs to do. So I thought that was a great thing to bring in Henry to Daryl's kind of team. And Daryl decides to escort them, and he figures out what Carol's trying to do and escorts them both to Hilltop to just to come back into civilization every once in a while, I guess. And they get to Hilltop and learn about Rosita and Eugene being still out there. So Daryl immediately joins the search party, and so Daryl, Aaron, and Tom Payne's character Jinja, they all go out to find Eugene as the episode ends, and that leads us into the final episode. Episode 8, Evolution, and I was so pumped coming into this one because, unfortunately, I had a little bit of comic spoilers. I knew that there was a villain coming in called the Whisperers. I knew what their deal was. I didn't really know any much storyline about them. I just knew what they were of them, and knowing that much totally ruins their introduction. I say ruins that you're not surprised, but it still had a huge impact on me. But I just wish that I could have seen it unspoiled. Like, I hate that. Game of Thrones and the Red Wedding and stuff, and now the Whisperer reveal. It's like I wish I could have come in unspoiled, because it would have been such an amazing moment to have. But whatever, it was still great, amazing. But nothing I can do now. So here we are, episode 8, Evolution, and we see Michonne and the new group arrive at Hilltop, and tension is thick there. We see a conversation between Michonne and Carol, and that reveals just how much tension and how much has broken down between all the groups. How much their friendship has been severed. It's like these communities aren't even working together. Our friends are basically not even talking to each other and being friends anymore. And it's so bad that the kingdom wants to have a fair to promote fellowship amongst the communities, and none of the other communities want to participate. They're just outright refusing and saying no. It's like, man, we've gone that far? Like, I want to know what happened in these 6 years, damn it. So, but it's just like we just see how much things have broken down, and Henry starts to settle in and immediately gets his heart crushed seeing that Alden is with Enid now, and but he hooks up with some of the other teenagers that are living at Hilltop, and they take him out to a little treehouse cabin type thing they've set up. Obviously doing being apocalypse teenagers as much as they can. They got music and they got bad moonshine and they got whatever. Get them some cannabis, man. I'm sure they could find some plants by now. Like, let's go here. But I guess the thing now is to go drink moonshine and mess with walkers. And Henry, he's grown up, Ezekiel's son, Carol's son, so he has a lot more respect for walkers and just everything in general. So he puts a stop to them, taking a piss on a walker. Like, I would be stopping that too. But, Henry's drunk, and they kind of push him into the pit with the walker. He kills the walker. He gets in the pit to kill the walker, but they're not helping him out. They just kind of leave him in there, and he's too drunk to get himself out. So it's eventually. Man, like with him in the hole, I kind of figured that they might do a story of him not being able to get out or more walkers coming in, but that's not where they were taking it. It was he eventually, I guess, got out off camera and banging on the gate to get back in like a dumbass. Marched him straight to the drunk tank, and that's where he kind of picked up the episode with him. And Tara brings Earl down there to show their prized new blacksmith apprentice. But Earl is exactly the perfect guy to be doing that, to be down there, because he's been there with the drinking, and like he said in the episode, he's literally been right there in the drunk tank, locked up. So he knows everything about redemption and second chances if you're willing to work for it and if you want it. So that's what he was trying to get at with Henry. When he was playing tough love, like if you're gonna be a little jackass, then you can just take your ass back to Hilltop. But Henry stepped up and said, I want to be more. I know I screwed up, I won't again, give me another chance. So it was nice to see. You knew Earl was the exact perfect guy to be down there with Henry. And he says that he's going to talk with Tom Payne's character Jinja about getting him out early, which I was looking forward to seeing him as a leader, but as we'd see, and that was not going to be going a different way, unfortunately. And we see Rosita wake up from her being knocked out, and is immediately in a panic, and she's absolutely panicked that Daryl, Aaron, and Tom Payne's character Jinja have no idea what they're getting themselves into, have no idea what they're dealing with out there. And for her to react like that, it's like, wow, something, obviously something is seriously going down. And so we see the three guys, Daryl, Aaron, and Tom Payne's character out there, and they're observing a walker herd, and the herd is acting in ways they've never seen walkers act before. So, they're really confused as to what's going on, and excuse me. But as they're leaving, we see the camera goes close up to the herd, and one of the walkers kind of turns its head and looks to it's almost, I thought from the preview, I kind of thought it might have been listening to them, but I think it's trying to track them and to see which way they went. So we know that this herd is not normal, and this is not, we have no idea what's going on as viewers right now. And and the guys eventually they're able to track. They're able to lure the horde away from the area they want to search, and they find the cabin where Eugene is, and they find Eugene hiding in the floor, and he tells them of the strange behavior that the walkers are having. Like, he tells them about hearing them whisper to each other, and it says these are not normal walkers anymore, and Eugene says they got to get out of there now, and Daryl's like, no, we're good, man. The herd's gone. We lured them away. He's like, no, they've been through here twice. He's like, they're looking for me. We need to get out of here. And these guys just can't wrap their heads around it. And Eugene's just like, Eugene's trying to figure out, like, we know we know that the CDC stuff from season 1 has kind of been retconned a little bit because different showrunner to start. And he had walkers acting in a different way, but I really hope they did. And the CDC stuff was so great, and I love that episode, and I love the information we got, and it still ties into this because it's like, because Eugene says the brain is still alive, so they can still evolve, but we saw that it's not. It's something like it dies, and only in the part that starts back up is only the physical movement part, the emotions, memories, things like that. The consciousness is not there, so it's and it's very dark. So but Eugene's trying to figure out anything, and explaining to them that these walkers must be evolving now, like they can now think and talk to each other and hunt. So these guys must be just terrifying thing, but none of them have physically seen, other than I guess they have seen the herd acting a little bit different, but to hear the whispers and stuff is on a different level. And before they can figure out a plan to get out of there, the herd is back, and they've already tracked them down to the cabin, and now they're coming upon the cabin, and Daryl tries to use the usual tactics that they use to lure the herd away, and it works at first, but then all of a sudden it stops, and the herd turns back towards where the others went, and Daryl, the look of just great acting by Norman Reedus. That's exactly the look he needed to have to convey to the audience. Like, what is going on, man? Like, these guys, like, this always works, and now it doesn't. Like, what are we gonna do? And like, maybe they are evolving. Like, what the hell are we gonna do now? So, that was a really significant scene, and now Aaron and Tom Payne's character Jinja are trying to get Eugene through the cemetery, but they can't open the gate. And thankfully, Michonne and the others show up to try and get him, to try and help him out, and so they try, and they're pretty successful at opening the gate, but the walkers are starting to bear down on them. So Tom Payne, Jinja's character, famous last words: "Don't worry, I got this." And man, he was kicking some serious ass. Just like that kill where he springs himself off the walker and comes down with his blade, like awesome kill. I was so into it, and as they're getting the gate open, and as Tom Payne's character is killing the last of the walkers, he dispatches the second last, and as he swings at the last one, ducks, grabs him, boom, stabs him right through the back. Blade penetrates the front of the chest, right through looked like it was right close, right through the heart. Whispers into his ear, "You are where you do not belong." Drop to the ground, turns to the ground, just looks like sends a chill down your spine, looks just bone chilling and scary. Our heroes rush him. We see more of these guys rush with their knives, and all of a sudden our crew has to fight him and go after him. So it was just like absolutely one of the most just bone chilling intensity. I wish I didn't know anything about that. I can't imagine what people that didn't know anything about the comics, their reaction to that. Like, that must have just been, and it just breaks my heart that I couldn't be one of those people to experience that, because that's what you dream of doing for anything in books and comics and TV, to bring a viewer to that height and to pull the rug out and just to have them have that emotion of, oh, no way. Like, that's what when he ducked and nailed him, even though I knew it was coming, I had that reaction. So I knew that it would have been even more of an intense reaction if I wouldn't have known. So, but that was just an absolutely unbelievable ending. And thankfully, but that cocky little, oh man, the guy that killed Tom Payne's character, he's standing there so cocky, but did not see Daryl standing there. Boom, Daryl took him out, and they were able to dispatch these guys, these different walkers that ran in, and we see that Daryl figures out that there's something different. These guys are regular human beings wearing walker masks to try and fool people to get close. Like, unbelievable reveal, and our characters stand up and they're still surrounded. We hear the whispers, so it was just an absolutely unbelievable, I mean, that might be the best scene of the series. Like, absolutely incredible. My hat's off to the cast, crew, to Angela Kang for dreaming it up, for everybody that came up, had to do with it. It was just that scene brought, like, it's that I don't know how else to describe it, man. Absolutely incredible. But the final scene that we see that Gabriel has been throughout the episode. We saw different scenes that Gabriel was taking care of Negan, and he was in charge of cleaning the bedpan and everything. And Negan obviously doing his Negan stuff, taunting him, talking shit. And and we saw the last time that Negan and Gabriel were talking. Gabriel had enough and been really fed up with this stuff, and had really been kind of flustered, and it paid off, because as Negan's sitting there, he sees the he sees the gate to this cell kind of reacting in a way it shouldn't be, and he walks up, and boom, Gabriel forgot to lock the gate. And that's what happens when it took him 6 years, but finally he broke someone down to the point where they got so mentally flustered that they forgot something significant as locking the damn gate of his cell. So Negan is out in the free world, and that leads us into the second half of season 9. What a great ending to this finale. What a great season it was, and I am just so excited for the second half of season 9. I mean, I can't. It sucks that we have to wait months again, but it's like we have so much to talk about and so much to speculate about. So I love that they did this, and it was just great scene. I mean, I haven't been as critical of the past few seasons as some other people have, but I thought it could have been a lot better, and maybe some of it wasn't what The Walking Dead kind of got away from what The Walking Dead was, but this season got it. If the show needed to get back on track, it absolutely got it back there, and just was. It was exciting. There was mystery. There was the walkers were a threat. People were a threat. There was just everything. It was. I just thought it was a really great job, and they had to deal the big pitch to hit. They had Rick Grimes left the show, so those 3 episodes afterwards I thought were some of the most focused and best, and that's what they had to be to continue on without Rick. So, and that's not a slight on Rick or Andrew Lincoln at all, saying now it can be better. Like, I mean, it's because of the springboard of Andrew Lincoln and Rick Grimes. Can the show springboard go forward 6 years and still be compelling and still bring all the viewers along on the ride. So they did a great job with this season. I can't wait to watch the second half of season 9. And that brings us to the end of talking about season all the episodes, but I want to talk a little bit about what's coming for the future and for next season. So first thing I want to talk about for next season is the X's that are we saw 1 on Michonne, we saw 2 on Daryl, and obviously that's a big mystery that needs to be solved. What the heck are those, and why are they there? I think it's pretty obvious that though whatever the explanation of those has to do with why the communities are so broken and severed between each other. I think. To me, obviously, my theory of it is I think that they had new people come up, and that they agreed to bring them in, and these people were bad. They were not good people. They were bad people. They turned on the group, and judging by the preview, it seems like some cowboy characters are coming in, and they got some mean looks on their face. So maybe they're the bad guys in this flashback. I don't know. Maybe that's a red herring. Like, they look mean, but they're actually not. So I don't know, but. My theory is I think these cowboy characters are like a new bad type of group, and they brought them in, they kind of turned on them and tried to take over, and that I think that these X's are like branding things, like females get one brand, males get 2, and that they had branded Michonne and Daryl, and that's when they were able to take control back of the communities, and nobody else had to get branded with those X's. And when they took back control, I think that Michonne, without asking anybody or without doing anything, just killed them all. And I think that I think that's where it comes. See Michonne's line during the season about at least they're alive to hate me. That's why I think that about. That's why I settled on this as my theory, because I think that Michonne, once she got control back, she was not going to leave it up to chance for these people to give them another chance and to have this happen again. She just killed them. And maybe these guys, when they had the tables turned on them again, Michonne was asking them about Rick, because excuse me, around that time they would have still been trying to find his body. Excuse me. So maybe these guys, were trying to show bravado and were lying, like, yeah, we found some guy, we put him out of his misery, and Michonne just lost her cool, and that's killed all these guys, and that would have that would explain the conflict with Maggie. Like, oh, so like it's not okay for the to kill the guy that killed my husband, but the guy that potentially killed Rick, yeah, it's okay to kill them. Or it's like, it's like, oh, we can't kill the saviors and Negan, got to keep them alive. But these people that did this, oh, we can kill all of them. So I think that is what the big conflict and what severed the trust, because I think that obviously just going up and killing a bunch of people, and maybe I don't know, maybe she killed every single one of them and maybe they all weren't bad. I don't know, but I think Michonne did something like that without asking all the communities, and that's why they're like, you know what, we're gonna do our own thing now. We're not gonna be associated with you. You've violated our trust and our friendship, so we're done. And so I think that would be a significant enough event to explain why our communities are like this. But that's just my theory. I'm excited to see what the show explanation is for it. And but it's gonna be interesting. I was reading reading online. Some people thought that maybe those X's, because they were kind of where the kidney is, but people quickly jumped in. Were like, do you understand? Like it requires microsurgery for like kidney transplants and stuff like that. Like there's no way it would be able to be done in the apocalypse. Like initially when I saw Michonne, that was when I was thinking like, what are they trying to like? I was thinking maybe it was like a Fear the Walking Dead thing of like a Proctor John, where some lead bad guy has a bad kidney and he's going around trying to find somebody that matches him, and if they found somebody that had a mark if the kidney that would work, they would use them obviously, but if it didn't, then they'd brand them X on the kidney or something like that. I don't like that was my initial, but once I read that how ridiculously hard it would be to have that in the apocalypse, I was like, I think it's probably just a case of, a cowboy type group using branding as a means of control and dominance. So that's my theory about the X's. But in real time, not in flashback time, we got the Whisperers to deal with. And I really hope for a good long story arc with this, because I think they're really interesting villains. I think that the way that they disguise themselves is really, really interesting and creates a lot of potential problems. But man, like they enrage me so much. I don't know why. When I initially first read about them, because the comics don't follow the show perfectly, so I thought I could get a little bit of dig in a little bit more comic information. So that's how I learned about the Whisperers. But immediately off the bat, they just bothered me that people would do that, like, because it was just such a, I don't know, maybe it's such an unfair thing, but it just bothered the crap out of me that they existed like that. And but the scene that initially jumped into my imagination when I read about the Whisperers was almost exactly how it played out. Like in my imagination, I imagined our group when they first discovered the Whisperers, like seeing like a few walkers and like, don't worry, I got them. One of our group walking up, and then as they go to casually kind of just nonchalantly do it because they're not used to it, and then just so one of them ducks, boom, nails him with a knife or something. That was what was in my imagination. That's basically exactly what went down. So that's always exciting when that happens. But man, it was that scene it still impacted me like I didn't know, because with the way it was playing out, I'm like, okay, like they're gonna just surround them, and like the Whisperers are just gonna be a tease. We're just gonna hear the Whispers. We're not gonna actually, see anybody get attacked or anything. And that's I had let my guard down. Like when Jesus like saw those last two walkers and he was nonchalantly walking back, I let my guard down. I'm like, okay, like they're gonna be surrounded, and that's gonna be the cliffhanger. And when that guy ducked, and once again, I was so shocked because I did not think I knew that the Whisperers were going to get to kill a good character of ours to establish themselves as a dominant bad guy, because you kind of have to do that to establish them as a threat. And I knew they were going to get a good character, and I was sure it was going to be Aaron. Not that I wanted to lose him. I mean, he's a great character, but I was sure it was going to be him. No way did I think it would be Tom Payne's character, Jinja. So when that walker ducked, boom, it was just my jaw dropped. I was just like, whoa, no way. And the way they did it was just so brutal. Like, no goodbyes, no last speech, no nothing. It was just bang, done, drop. Like, and it was done. Like, it was it was gone. It was perfect way to do it, exact way to do it. It was just an unbelievably intense, awesome scene. Like maybe the best sequence of the show. And I really can't wait for these Whisperers to see their group dealing with them. I just really hope they're not going to be playing nice with these guys. You know, as we saw them in the preview, them coming up to the gate and Daryl walking up to talk with them, and I think they capture one, and one of them's like, "You're more like us than you are like them, Daryl." It's like, I mean, if Daryl does anything but tell them to go shove it up their ass, like that's going to be so annoying. Like, I want these guys, like I want our crew to be battling them as hard as possible, and I just really hope they're not going to be playing nice with these scumbags, because like. Man, I don't know why, but what they do with the Walker skin really bothers me like that. And yeah, I wish I could have been unspoiled, but it was still an amazing moment with what I knew. And it's like, man, Tom Payne's character Jinja in the Carl category of what the hell are they doing, man? Like, especially with the actor going all in, studying martial arts to be as good as he can, growing his hair out. Like, he was like, I don't know, as somebody that would love to, create movies and TV or whatever, it's like if I had a actor that was so into the character that he was doing stuff like that, that would excite me. Like, I would try and write more for that type of person, because that shows they're buying in. I wouldn't time to get rid of them. It's like, the Chandler Riggs buys a house in Atlanta to get closer, to be more, you're done, bud. It's like Tom Payne, his martial arts training in his free time to really, embrace, to make this character real, and grows his hair out real, and then, sorry, bud, you're done. I just don't, so much story left for him to tell. I was really looking forward to seeing him embrace the leadership role reluctantly, and then becoming a great leader, and all that's gone out the window. Sometimes I don't know what they're doing with these decisions, but it sucks to be, not to be able to watch Tom Payne every week. He did a great job with this character. As much as I hated the name, and why I didn't participate in saying it, and but he was such a great character, and it really sucks to lose him as a character. But he couldn't have gone out in a more impactful way, and as one of the greatest sequences in the history of the show. And I will certainly not forget his death. It was just one of those jaw-dropping moments that can, just for me, unbelievable that I will enjoy watching, because it was just so well done and built up so well. But it sucks to say goodbye to Tom Payne for sure. And now for Rick's story. What are my hopes for Rick's story and what they're going to be doing in the movies is so the A and B stuff. I really hope that A just means kind of simple, just alpha and beta. A means strong person. B means like a weak person. And I really hope the helicopter people are trying to find a cure, as opposed to being like evil scumbags that want to take over the world. Like, I hope their deal is trying to find a cure, but they need people that are 100% loyal to what they're doing. They can't have people running off or stopping, which is why they require the A's to be bitten first. Because I believe, because they're working on a cure, they have figured out a way to hold off the infection, not to actually cure it, but they've figured out a way to hold it off, which is why they can have people bitten and still work for them. They just have to get this IV or take a shot every day or just whatever. But I think they figured out a way to stave off the infection, and that's why only A's are the ones that she's taking and getting bitten, because strong personality, they can survive the bite, they can survive the treatment, and then they can get their strength back to still contribute what they need to contribute towards figuring out what the cure is. So I hope they're and then that's when they tell these people, once you help us figure out the cure, you'll be good. So it's we're not doing anything bad. We're just making sure that you're going to help us the entire time that we need you to. And they're because when we have, as long as you're here and you have this antidote, you'll be fine. And when we find the cure, you'll be fine. But if you leave us and you don't have it, you're going to turn into a walker and be dead. So I believe that's why they do the way they do. And hopefully it involves going to France. That's why, and that would really help explain the 6 years that Rick hasn't contacted his family or come back. But like they said in the CDC episode, that's why I hope it's not totally retconned. but like I hope that because they said the French were close. So like maybe so hopefully it has something to do with that, and maybe traveling to France, to Europe, or back and forth, or who knows. But hopefully it has something to do with that, because it would be a good way to explain the 6-year gap. Because I mean they have to have something good to explain why Rick hasn't gone back or contacted his family, and that would also explain why they have them potentially bit, so they can't they can't just be like, what, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going back. Like the people that the A's that they get, they have to. I'm sure they have roles for B's, like doing things that don't require the leadership strong type personalities. But obviously right now with where they're at in their situation, they need lots of A's. So. But I hope it's not a case of just typical bad guys that want to take over the world, because that would just, I mean, if Rick's just sitting in a cell for 6 years, that would be just lame and really, really weak, and wouldn't be exciting. I don't think it would be fun for 3 movies, and I just don't think that's the way they should go. I really hope that's not. And but Rick, I think he'd be able to justify, like, what, if I can just find this cure, and when I come back to my family and friends, if I have a cure, this is all over with. If I can end this if I can end the Walker War, then this 6 years away from every second away with them will be worth it, because I'll be able to make it all up when the world is back to normal, because we'll have the cure. We'll be able to get back. So I believe that would give Rick a justification for staying away. But something has to, because they'll totally destroy the character and make these movies completely bomb if they don't make it a good reason. And I think working towards a cure would be exciting for Walking Dead fans and satisfying for fans of Rick's character, and for the story, and to make just going along with what they've set up and built. And it also created an end game for the show. I mean, obviously, I love this world. I mean, I'd love to watch it forever. And as long as they can keep going, I'm ready to rock and roll. But at the same time, it creates an end game if they ever want to end it and get out and start another story or whatever, do something else. Like this, what they've created a universe. They can tell thousands of different stories as long as they do it right and do it well and make sure the audience will buy in. But they've created a universe where they can do so much. But this one story, they created an end game. Rick comes. They said that Rick will never come back and he's done. But I mean, if they didn't say that, then people wouldn't buy into the movies as much or whatever. So they have to say things like that. But a great end game would be at the end of these movies, Rick, they find the cure, and they get it, and Rick heads back towards Alexandria, Hilltop, and Kingdom to try and praying to God that all of his family and friends are still alive and there to hear this amazing day that it's all over. They got the cure. So I just think it would create a lot more interesting story, and just I think it would check all the boxes that it needs to. And I think it'd be I think there's a lot of fun movies and stories they could create out of trying to find a cure and having this helicopter people kind of be good guys, but doing something kind of bad and biting people and forcing them to work for them. But I think it creates a lot of interesting story. But that's where I hope they go. But I mean, I'm just literally throwing out my guesses and hopes. Like, I mean, I have no idea what kind of plot points are already out there. So, but hopefully it's something that's not just your typical bad guys keeping Rick held hostage. And just to wrap up a few more things about the show, like once again, I really loved seeing Daryl back to his tracker and ranger roots, and more of that, please. Like, I mean, that to me, that's where I see Daryl's retirement. Eventually he's not going to be able to be wandering around outside everywhere. Eventually I want to see that character embrace living inside the walls, and it's sort of inside the walls. Like, to me, his retirement would be teaching the next generation to be trackers and to be rangers. And, it'd be like the University of Daryl, like going out, the parents would be giving their kids to Daryl, and they'd go out into the woods for a few weeks, and they'd come back, and they'd know how to track. And to me, that's where I'd like to see Daryl's retirement end up on as a character, him settle into a role like that. Something where he still gets that adventurous type, but at the same time he's a leader in the community, and that everyone can see every day. And that's a big, important thing, because Daryl, he's one of the only original members left, so he's got to be in that leadership type role. And hey, and, like one cool little thing that I thought of. It's like, I heard that Michael Grey Eyes doesn't want to come back to Fear the Walking Dead. I hope that's not true. Hope they're able to bring him back. I love that character. I love Crazy Dog. But wouldn't that be a great crossover to Walking Dead if one day Daryl's out and he meets up with Taka and Crazy Dog, who have somehow made their way to our area, of Alexandria and Hilltop and stuff. Like, I think that'd be so exciting, and those three characters would be so great together. And I just think that they'd be a force to be reckoned with for any set of villains. So I thought that was a cool little thing I thought of maybe to throw in the show. But last three things, for the three big actors and we're saying goodbye to, first, Lauren Cohan. Man, like, I really love her as an actress, whatever. She does a great job on the show. It sucks that she left when she did. Her character was just getting an opportunity to really shine and take the lead. So hopefully she comes back. I mean, I think it was money issues, and hopefully the show pays her what she's worth. She's worth to be one of the highest paid actresses. Like, she's great. She's such an asset to the show, and I would really love to see her reaction to the Whisperers and how her contributions. So it sucks that she probably won't be a part of it, but hopefully when season 10 comes back, that she'll be good. She'll be back to the show for that. But she's a great character, a great actress, and it was definitely sucked to not have her in those last 3 episodes. And big time cheers, and much love and God bless to Andy Lincoln and Tom Payne, and they were great characters on the show. Obviously, Andrew Lincoln still will be in the movies, doing that character. Doing Rick Grimes, it really sucks to lose Tom Payne. Like, he was coming in, I thought he was really, I was ready to see his story move into the leadership part of it, and that way I thought that would have been really exciting for him and his character. But unfortunately, that's the way the world goes on these types of shows. One day you're primed for the lead, and the next day you are lying on the ground, like with a sword wound. So it was, but it was a great exit from the show for Andrew Lincoln, but I don't believe that'll be the end. I think eventually down the line, the end of these movies will link up with Rick coming back somehow, maybe only for an episode or two. Like, I think his days as a series regular may be over, but eventually I think he'll be back to wrap things up on the show, or at the very least, just wrap up the movie storyline if the show is going to keep going. So. But a big time cheers and much love and God bless to all 3 of those, the actors. And much love, God bless, and as much good and positive energy to the whole cast and crew, all the fans, the Talking Dead cast, the crew of that. It provides such a great experience. It's such a great show, and Talking Dead afterwards is a lot of fun, getting different perspectives and getting that immediate live reaction from everybody. So. It's just a great thing, it's still one of the best shows on TV, one of my favorite shows, and I'm excited for the future. I hope that the audience and the fans are all excited, and that it shows in the viewership and all the metrics the shit needs to show in, so that the show can keep moving forward and be successful and pay everybody what they need to be paid, and just to have the budgets they need to make these episodes as good as they can be. But I'm really excited. Angela Kang has done such a good job as the showrunner, and picking up where the previous left off. So I'm excited for these movies. I'm excited for his second half of season 9 and beyond that. And so that guess that'll bring us to the end for today. So, thank you everyone for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you soon down the road. Much love and God bless. Peace.